6.4 goes back to a little bit of 6.1 and 6.2 with graphing these quadratics. However, I'm going to give you another hint in there to be able to help you. Well, what does this do for me, right? I'm graphing it at my vertex, I have points. But quadratics, the whole point of getting quadratics is to find four things which are actually just the same thing. It's one thing with four names. There are solutions, roots, zeros, which all in all means x-intercepts. The point of solving quadratics is for x-intercepts. Let's go ahead and take the first set of notes on this page. Right, so step one is we're going to find the discriminant. The discriminant is what we're doing and focusing today. Then you find the AOS, you find the vertex, fill in the table, plot your points, and then you list your solutions between braces, right? Those are those squiggly parentheses. Go ahead and pause the video and take these notes. As I said before, there are various names. I will call them solutions, I will call them roots, I will call them zeros, I will call them x-intercepts, and I will not call them all at once. On the same exact quiz, the directions might say find the solutions. On the same exact quiz on the next page, it might say find the zeros. And you will have to know that what I mean by that are the x-intercepts. Those x-intercepts, if you're like, well, how many are there? Does it cross the x-axis once, twice, or never? Well, that can be determined by the discriminant. It is b squared minus 4ac. That discriminant formula part comes from the quadratic formula, which we'll be getting into during lesson 6.8. Go ahead and pause the video so you can take these notes. As you can see for the discriminant, there are 2 points in 2 solutions. Those 2 points have nothing to do with the vertex. The vertex is not part of the solution. In the middle, there's one solution. The vertex actually is the solution. And then an example where there's no solution, that means it literally does not cross the x-axis. It will never cross it because of its position. It could be going up forever, or maybe it goes down forever and it's way below the x-axis. So let's go ahead and do number 1. We're going to identify the discriminant. So first, we're going to use our b squared minus 4ac. It is not d equals, it's discriminant equals, right? So b squared in this case is a 4, and then a squared minus 4 times a is 1, c is negative 5. You know I will always put everything in parentheses. I get a 16 plus a 20, so I get 36. This tells me my discriminant is 36, and I need to determine, is that greater than 0, equal to 0, or less than 0? We see that this is greater than 0, which tells me that my discriminant will show me 2 solutions. So my discriminant is 36, which tells me 2 solutions. I'm worried about the 2 solutions part because that tells me there's going to be 2 x-intercepts. Now I find my AOS, so I can start to solve it. So I get an x equals a negative b is 4 over 2 times 1, which is a, negative 4 over 2. My AOS is negative 2. And then, of course, I'm going to put my vertex right here in the middle. So I get y equals a negative 2. So I'm sitting back into the formula with my AOS, which is x. So you get a 4 minus 8 minus 5. So this gives me a negative 4 minus 5 gives me a negative 9. So my vertex is negative 2 comma negative 9. Now, usually I would write that as an answer, but I'm not worried about that right now because I need to find what those 2 solutions are. Where are those 2 x-intercepts, those 2 zeros, those 2 roots? So I graph that line for the AOS. I plot my point for the vertex, negative 2 comma negative 9, and I'm going to fill in the rest of the table, right? So I get a negative 1, I get a 0, I get a 1, negative 3, negative 4, and negative 5. As I remember, these 2 will be the same, these 2 will be the same, and these 2 will be the same. Go ahead and calculate these. You can pause the video while you calculate it. I end up with a negative 8, a negative 5, and a 0. And I can also look, right, this should open upward. It should be a U shape, not an upside down U shape, and that's true when I go and plot these. So I get a negative 1, negative 8. I get a negative 3, negative 8, I get a 0, negative 5. I get a negative 4, negative 5. And then I get a 1, comma 0, and a negative 5, comma 0. So here we go. I've graphed my parabola. In this case, I do have 7 points, and that's okay because that's how much it took me to get that x, right? I don't have to fill out this whole table if I figure out what those intercepts are, but that means my final answer is going to be negative 5, comma 1. I get that from here, which is my x-intercept here, and here, which is my x-intercept here. This is the answer. This is the solution that I'm looking for. And because my discriminant did say I have 2 solutions, well, guess what? I have 2 in my braces. Go ahead and try the next page using these set of notes that were given to you before. While you try this, pause the video so then you can check your answers when you unpause it. Here is the answer to number 1 from that next page. You find out that the discriminant was 0, which means it gives you a 1 solution. That 1 solution is your vertex. So in order to graph it, you might have had to fill in some of the table, but you didn't need all of this. Remember, in the graphs, I only want 5 points. I don't need all 7. If you want 7, great, do that. But your answer is that the solution is 1. Pause the video so you can do number 2. Now that you've solved number 2, you'll notice that when you graphed it, it's upside down and it's well below the x-axis. This was a no solution, right? That discriminant ended up being a negative 8, which is less than 0. So it's a no solution. So in my braces, I have to write no solution because that means there are no x-intercepts, and I can clearly see that from my graph. Go ahead and pause the video and try number 3. Here's the answer to number 3. Now, other times, I will not ask you to graph it. Let's go to page 23, for example. I might just say, find the discriminant. Okay, well, my discriminant formula is b squared minus 4ac. Yes, make flashcards, memorize it. And then I have a 5 squared minus 4 times a times c. So I get 25 minus 16, which is 9. 9 is greater than 0. I get 2 solutions. So again, my discriminant is 9 is greater than 0, or just 9. And that tells me there are 2 solutions. So that is what I'm looking for when you do the discriminant. There's tons of practice on this, so continue to go ahead and practice.